and welcome to this episode of the Romance Class podcast. Romance Class is a community of Filipino authors of romance in English. Since 2013, our community has helped over 80 authors publish over 100 books. We also have a podcast, which is what you're watching or listening to now, and it has been a space to explore more of what we can do with the books and what we can discuss with the authors. This podcast is produced by Tanya Arpa and Mina V. Esguerra. Before we start, we would like to remind everyone to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Head over to kilig.pub/YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and also click on the bell to be notified when a new video is coming up. My name is Mina V. Esguerra, my pronouns are she and her, and I'm hosting the episode today. This episode is part 2 of our discussion about writing a romance series. Last episode, we defined the romance series as a series of standalone romance books where each book follows a different couple, but all the books are connected by something. One way to create a series like this is to use characters as the connecting factor. So in this episode, we have authors Tria and Tara Frejas who have written and published character-based romance series to talk about how this works for them. Ano, may plano ba? Welcome, Jay and Tara. Hi, friends.
Hi.
Hi.
So before we start, I'm going to ask Tara and Jay to introduce themselves and talk about a series that has characters as its connecting theme. But before that, I'd like to mention that this is actually the season finale of the Romance Class Podcast Season 4. So we'll take a little break after this episode and pahinga lang, have a little holiday break, and then, but we're actually still online doing stuff. So it's really just like a little breather from doing podcast episodes, so we can come up with more stuff next season. So hello, Tara and Jay. Let's start with Jay.
Hello. Hi, I'm Tria, and I have written a series based on a band. So I have visual aids. I have the first book. I'm showing the first book now. It's called Sounds of Her Breakup. So it's the first of the playlist series, which revolves around an indie rock band, an indie Filipino rock band, and their Japanese celebrity friend, Shintamori.
Cool. How about you, Tara?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tara Frejas. I'm sorry, my pronouns are she and her, and I will be talking about two kinds of series, two book series. This one is the Backstage Pass series. It's about a K-pop band, K-pop music rock band, ganyan. Currently we have two books in the series, Scandalized and then Played by Ear. And then the second is based on a family, actually brothers. So this is not actually, I don't have a series name for it, but I call it the Lakambini Universe. So this is Pio's book, Like Nobody's Watching, and this is Datu's book, Keeping Miss Kalila. So there's another book on the way for their big brother. Yun.
Thank you, Tara. I call it keeping up with the Alvezes.
Yes.
Hindi ako yung author, pero meron akong tawag sa series mo. Hello, Paolo. Hello, Prof. Paolo, who's in the chat.
Hi, Paolo.
If anybody has questions for our authors about their books or about writing a series, please write it into the chat and we'll get to them later in the Q&A. So ako muna, I have some questions for our authors. So again, this was a suggested topic na parang how somebody asked in our Discord if we could talk about how we write or plan a series. So last episode, me and Ansela Corsino talked about how we planned our location-based series, meaning the connecting theme of our series of books was a location rather than characters. So first, I want to ask you two, why write a series at all? Can you give us like a reason why you wrote this, why the series you want to talk about came to be, and why it makes sense for others to also do it that way? Jay, let's start with you.
Panic. As if I didn't see the outline before coming on here. So yeah, hi everyone, and why write a series? So the questions that we got, at least for the outline, makes it seem like we plan things, but at least for my side, I don't remember planning writing the series. So I just remember writing the first book, and then after that, realizing that I have a friend group there that each of the friends there can have their own story. So it's about a band called Train Man, and it's a five-piece band, rock band. There are four boys and then one girl, and then there's one Shinta, who is their outside friend, but it's part of the squad. So I guess it kind of made sense to have stories for after Jill's book, which is the first book, to have stories for Mickey, because after that first book, Mickey's stories kind of open ended, like he kind of had to fix his life. So I wanted to give him that space with his own book. And at the time, I also had the brilliant, i.e., make life difficult for myself idea to write a Shinta book in the same timeline as Mickey's book, because the first book kind of ended HFN with Jill. So I kind of wanted to explore that. So that was kind of the first season of the Play the series. And then after that, I just realized, I now have three other band boys to write about. So that's Son and Nino for the second season. And then hopefully we'll get Kim to wrap things up, the Kim book. So it kind of just made sense. The characters were loud, so that helped me write them. That's the plan as far as I can talk about it and just remember how I did it. Why it made sense. It's fun to have that universe, to be able to create that setting where everybody just knows each other, and it's kind of like home base to me. I can come back to these characters, and after writing about characters in their 30s in my other books, I can come back to these characters, and I'm like in my 20s again. So it's kind of a fountain of youth-ish situation. So it's like home base, and it's also writing practice for me in a way, because it helped me have a distinctive voice, I guess, for each member, especially if I'm writing the squad scenes. It's fun, and it's also challenging to be able to give a different, unique voice for each character if you have them all thrown in one scene, and it's chaotic, and it's writing practice, I guess, for me in that sense. So yun, walang plano, but it worked out somehow, I guess, at least for me.
Thank you, Jay.
Calling out myself.
So, yan yung problema natin eh. Nung pag napag-uusapan na yung plan, parang what plan ba? But actually, now that you talk about it, there is a progression, di ba? Na parang you ended up getting to know the characters in a way, because each book sort of expands on knowing a character, and then biglang main character na siya. And then,
Yeah.
but I'm glad you mentioned the person that you have not written a book about, because because people might ask. So I guess that's an extra question I have. Like, diba? Are you fine with leaving somebody out? We can have that later for the two of you. So think of your answer.
Thank you for asking ahead.
How about you, Tara? Why write a series, and why does it make sense? And also, hello to the people who've joined us in the chat. Hello, Kat. Hello, Denise. Hello, Angeli. Thanks for joining us on this overcast afternoon.
Sorry. Okay.
So yeah, Tara.
So just like Jay, I didn't really have a plan to to write a series. At least not for the Alveses. For the Backstage Pass series, I had like a tiny, hindi pa nga siya plan eh. It's like an idea. Parang while I was writing, sorry. Sorry, may construction dito sa bahay namin. Tawag dito. While I was writing Scandalized, I thought maybe can you hear that? I'm so sorry. It's so loud. While I was writing Scandalized, I was thinking, I have three band members here that I could possibly write a different story about after I write the story of Fee, because Scandalized is um Fee centered, ganyan. Siya yung bida doon. And then I want, after we finish Scandalized and we know who she ends up with, I wanted to write a happy ever after for someone else. So parang like Jake, natural progression din na parang, ay, sige, I'll write another book for Iwan. And then after that, syempre, alam nga naman iwanan ko yung dalawa. So, I also have plans to write for Steven and Min Chan. So, currently, hindi ko pa sa ginagawa, pero may plans. So, if there are people here who are waiting for those books, don't worry. I will be writing them eventually. And then for the Alveses, talagang ito wala. Wala talaga siya. Walang plan. um, wala ngang plan originally to write a PO book eh. I think the main parang motivation for me to write a series with the Alves brothers is actually the romance class community. Because after Waiting in the Wings was released, a lot of people really like Pio na parang they usually do this, yung parang hustisya para kay Pio, ganyan. Hustisya para for this character who did not get their HEA if they were like involved in like a love triangle or something. Parang si Mickey din in Jay's book. So parang when Mickey didn't get the girl, parang the readers in the community were asking for a Mickey book. And then parang ganun din yung nangyari kay Pio. Actually, when I asked Ines Bautista Yao to beta read the book, siya yung unang-unang nag-comment sa akin na, alam mo, pwede siyang bida, yung gano'n, parang pwede siyang magkaroon ng sarili niyang libro. So when after releasing it, parang yun, naisip ko na siya na, sige, tingnan natin um, kung pwede ko siyang isulat. And eventually, yes, I did. And then after that, na-inlove naman yung mga tao sa mga kuya niya. So parang, sige na, gagawa natin, ganyan. Kasi pwede naman eh. I mean, parang it's pushing myself to get to know these characters and actually write a new story with new people with different personalities and possibly different tropes, ganyan. And then yun nga, it's talagang motivation for me yung presence ng community and the readers and their hindi naman sila namimilit na isulat mo yan or ituloy mo yung kwento ni ganito. But the way, paano ba? Hindi siya forcing eh. Hindi nila ako pinipilit. Basta, meron lang parang push na parang, nasa na yung ganito? Yung gentle push lang na, saan na si ano? Saan na yung libro ni ganyan? So, parang hindi naman, baga ako, personally, I really want to write din. It's not just like to please people who are asking for it, but um, eventually kasi while writing these characters, parang like part of me falls in love with Datu, part of me falls in love with Isagani, ganyan. So parang sige na nga, bigyan ko kayo ng HCA nyo. So, yun, kaya nagkaroon ng ganyang series. Kaya may plan to create more books is because I also got to know more like the personality of these characters that I've written, and also because the people who have read the previous books showed a lot of love to them. So parang it's my way also of giving back na parang minahal niyo siya, sige, bibigyan ko pa kayo, ganun. Yun.
Thank you, Tara. So, in a gentle way, kasalanan ng readers yung kaya nagkakaroon ng character-based the romance series. Got it. But I think that's, 'di ba? But I think it's like a nice way to like validate a book that you've written because you've written something and a character who wasn't the lead or who wasn't the main character parang gets the kind of attention that usually a main character gets na parang they're hoping for it. So at least parang you do get to feel that you did something right. So balikan ko lang yung follow-up question ko. So if you've admitted that like these things are really like almost like reader driven or response and reaction driven. And then when you originally planned wrote the book, parang you wrote the universe of the friend group or the band or the whatever. Ito yung members niya. Okay lang ba kayo na merong hindi magkaka-solo book? As an author, will you actually like is that okay?
Deep
Ako
breathing.
hindi.
Hindi.
Ako
Completist ka.
personally hindi. Para kasing unfair. Parang unfair. Like, for example, so, let's say, okay, so now we have Scandalized and Take by Ear. So that's one of the band members, Yiwan, the band leader. So, tas may plan ako for Steven. Actually, dalawa na yung outline niya na hindi ko pa rin siya, parang hindi pa ako decided kung alin yung gagamitin ko or gagawa ba ako ng bago. Si Minchan wala pa talagang outline at all. But I have never thought of not writing his book. Parang, kawawa naman siya. parang, parang kasi especially kasi 'di ba sila, they're idols. So parang as a fan, if when I'm following these people, like these artists, tas alam kong may love life si ganito. Sana si din tsaka si ganito may love life. Parang ganun. para masaya lang, 'di ba? Para masaya. So since of course we're romance authors, and of course lahat ng kasunod na books ay romance. So parang bigyan ko na lang kayo lahat ng ng happy ever after kasi kailangan natin nun. Tapos syempre, for the Alveses, si Kuya Gani na lang natitira. So parang iiwanan ko pa ba siya? Tawag dito, he has already sacrificed so much for this family. Char! So parang, tawag dito, parang respeto lang kay Kuya Gani. Yun. So, for me, hindi siya negotiable na walang libro yung iba. So, okay. Okay lang siguro sana okay lang dun sa mga readers na maghintay kasi mabagal tayo magsulat lately. Pero, yun, don't worry because the books will be coming.
Okay. before before anyone else answers, hello to people who've joined the chat. Hello, Miles. Hello, Iggy. Hello, Jella. Did I say hello to Denise na? Hello. Thanks for joining us. Paolo, so is the Frejas principle of series writing bigyan lahat ng happy ever after? Kasi kawawa naman sila.
Yung deserving lang.
Yung,
yung deserving lang ng hiya, yun.
oo.
So, alam nyo naman siguro kung sino yung deserving ng hiya at hindi. So, kung deserving sila, feeling, alam mo yun, okay lang. Denise!
How about you, Jay?
Yeah, it's the same. I also subscribe to the Tara Frejas principle of series writing, wherein everybody who deserves a happy ever after should get a happy ever after. For two reasons. So one, it's also the way my brain works. If I start something, I can't not complete it. Diba? Remember the Butal situation. If it's 0.99, I'm like, why is it 0.99? Why is it not 0.00? So it's a thing. So I've written everybody already in the playlist series except for Kim. So it seems unfair and just not right that I don't write about him. And also it feels that the books I've written so far, from the first one to Miki's book to Shinta's book to Son and Nino's, are all just leading to how parang it's Kim's road to redemption. Because I also felt that I needed to forgive him after the first book. Because after that first book, parang, yeah, I didn't like him that much at the start, and then he was kind of, I don't know, explaining himself, or at least getting himself understood up to the end of the book, I guess. But even after that, there's that residual feeling of, heartbreaker ka, and why did you do that, and all those things. So kind of the books after that felt like getting to know Kim a bit more through the eyes of all the other members, his other friends, and then seeing how he has grown, I guess, as a person and their band leader. So I feel like the time is right for him to get his own happy ever after. If he will just talk to me, please talk to me. Talk to me and I will write you, please.
Ayaw pa niya. Ayaw pa
Ayaw
niya
pa
right
niya
now.
eh. Ayaw pa
Okay.
niya.
Okay. No, but I think, kasi 'di ba parang so mukhang may redemption arc na magaganap. But that's interesting to me because I think not all characters naman are have readers who want or are even looking for that. So the fact lang na parang somebody is parang waiting for the challenge to be taken on. That's really interesting and it is a challenge. So uh, so the next question is since you've admitted that there was originally no plan, if you were to plan it though, knowing what you know now, how would you write and plan a series based on a family and friend group? And I think ito yung, kasi diba, you're talking about series that you started without a plan. So maybe if you had, like if you were to start a new series or if you were to parang, uh, if you were to pick out something that that you encountered as you were writing it, parang how would you have done that if you actually planned it? May ganon ba?
Somehow I still have no answer to that. But I will probably still do it the same way, that it's kind of narrative driven, like whoever character talks first. Sorry, I'm distracted by the comments. Thanks, guys. I will get there. We will get the book, the Kim book out there someday. Yeah, so it's narrative driven, that I would not do it differently, I guess, with the playlist series. It made sense to me that I needed to close the Jill arc with the first three books and then move on to the next characters who are a bit more, the next books which are a bit more stand alone, and that Son and Nino are kind of separate stories from the first three books, and then Kim of course gets to stand on his own in his own book. So it's really, for me, who talks first. I guess it's also the same with Tara, that it's Pio gets the limelight first out of the Albices because he had his spot in the limelight in the book where he was the second lead that got away, that had to be let go of, and then kind of snowballed from there. Um, I've been writing other stuff outside of the playlist series, and I also have been doing the same thing where I'm not really planning a series. It's just I'm gonna write this. Maybe it will connect to the next one. Maybe it will not. And I guess the thing with having a series is that there is, although it's a comfort zone for me, it's a universe that I come back to as a home base. There's also pressure involved already if you have a series, because you have to remember the rules, or well, at least the people, how they interact, the dynamics, what they do, what they like, how they are different from each other. And then if you do what we did, like with Tara and Six de los Reyes, that we started connecting our universes, there's a lot more that we had to remember and keep tabs on, because we are connecting all these people and how they relate to each other and how they interact and how they progress eventually, which is another thing that we have to, are we doing that, Tara? We have to keep tabs on, and we have to remember that. So now that when Tara is writing the next book of the Albesa series, she will probably, and I will probably do the same in the Kim book. So what period of Kim's life is this in relation to what's happening with EGP or with Arabella in terms of Success Universe? So that's expansion, just maybe not the question, but that expansion that adds a little bit to the pressure, which is a good kind of pressure. But if I will write another series, I'll probably do the same thing, that I'll just be guided, but whoever talks first talks the loudest, and just go from there. And it's been working so far, so I like it that way for me.
Thank you, Jay. How about you, Tara?
Ako, if I'm honest, if I were to plan something like a series, ganyan, I will consider like the things they do professionally. Like, or, some traits na hindi ko na pwedeng baguhin or whatever. Because for example, ito yung pinaka-challenge ko ngayon. um, when I wrote Waiting in the Wings, I did like a parang throwaway detail. Si Datu tsaka si Isagani and what they do in life, ganyan. So Datu is a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, and then Gani is a musician in the orchestra. So ngayon, I'm writing Gani's book. I'm trying to write Gani's book. And I don't want him in the orchestra anymore. Like I want him to do something else because I have a story. I have this story for him, and I'm looking for a way to I'm looking for a reason kung bakit siya umalis ng orchestra. So parang hindi ko na pag-isipan 'yon nung ginawa ko siya. So hindi ko na siya pwedeng hindi ko na siya pwedeng baguhin. So I'm just gonna write around it ganyan. And it's giving me trouble parang ganun. So I think that's one of the things siguro if I were to start another series, parang I will I will plan yung the background, and then how that can affect like the people around them and their decisions ganyan kasi ngayon talaga wala. So yun, and then just touching on what Jay has said about the expansion pack. The Summer Crush expansion pack, DLC yan. Downloadable content.
Oh
um
no.
um Yun din, that was not, kasi hindi naman talaga din plinano yun. Parang it just happened na parang, let's do something together. And then, nag-merge yung mga universe. Tapos parang, it made sense when it was done. But like, during the time that we were talking about it, that we were planning it, ang medyo, sige, paano natin siya gagawin? Which is easy for Arabella and Trainman because both bands are based in the Philippines. Tapos parang ako, sandali lang. How am I going to do this? Na parang, how are we going to justify this parang Korean idols playing with with the Pinoy bands, ganyan. So parang sige, gawin natin siyang music festival, ganyan, na international. So, when we were thinking about it, talagang, sige. Kunwari, ano lang, parang suspension of disbelief. But anyway, parang after a while naman, we've been seeing mga music festivals around the world na, 'di ba? May mga ini-invite silang guests from other countries. So it's not completely impossible, for hindi completely impossible na mangyari yung ganun. So, yun. What else? Actually, parang when looking at the books that I've written na connected yung universes niya, parang siguro okay din na hindi masyado planado. Parang okay din na you play it by ear. Ay, taray. Merong may biglang
May
PPL.
shout out. Good.
May,
Good
Yes.
job. Good job ka doon.
Oh. Oo, di ba? Parang okay na parang okay na mag play it by ear.
Yon. May
Um,
visual aid.
Oo, minsan kasi once you plan something out, personally for me, I think I've talked about this during one of the writing sprints that I did. When I plan something out, it usually talaga hindi lahat yun na follow, or parang I find myself getting bogged down by one detail or a couple of details that I've already planned out. So parang sige, I'm not gonna use that kasi I want something else. I want something else done to this story, or I want parang it will make the story much more interesting if I do this, ganyan, instead of parang following a plan that I've already done. So parang siguro saktong paano ba? Ano nga yun tawag ni Bridge, yung pantsing at saka planning? Plantser ba yun? Yung parang somewhere in
Lobster?
somewhere in between a planner and a pantser.
okay.
Yun, parang okay siya na gano'n, na parang you plan something out na hindi masyadong rigid, and then while working on the books, you just adjust accordingly kung ano yung feel mo na, alam mo yun, yung feel mo na mas magandang gawin.
Thank you, Tara. pa-confirm natin kung ano yung term according to
Sayang wala si
Bridge.
Bridge eh.
Wala
Oo.
sa chat eh. She should have been able to drop that special term if she were there.
So, I think I have some questions for you but I'll put it into the Q&A na lang. And if anyone else in the chat has questions, please put them into the chat so we can ask them during the Q&A. So my next question for this program, or at least yung outline natin for the program, is do you have any tips for authors who plan to start a series that's based on families and friend groups?
Okay, so no, when Tara was talking, I actually started remembering that yeah, I do stuff to kind of plan, but basically at least with the playlist universe, and I do this for all my books. Then is I have a master sheet. Doesn't have to be super organized yet, but just start with the characters. Or at least for the playlist series, I wrote down who the characters were. I had their names, their ages, a bit about their personalities, and yeah, how they. Because eventually, because the first book didn't have their surnames, I eventually assigned surnames to them and kind of completed the character profiles. So I guess the number one tip is you know your characters. And since it's a universe that you're building, you know your universe. We talked about expanding with Tara's universe and Six's universe. So it's a collision of sorts. So we kind of have to keep a master file, a shared file of things that we feel the other authors have to know about what's happening with our characters in terms of timelines. Like by this year, is this character already in a relationship, or is he still, grumpy and sad about life because he's single and alone? Or is he already happy because he's had this HEA? So those kinds of things. And since we're talking about bands, is EGP in a world tour at this point, and can they not drop into a music festival in the Philippines? So those kinds of things. So know your characters. Have a file that you keep all the things in, just so you remember what's happening. Especially if you're writing a series in a span of several years, that's what's happened to me. It's taking some time. And another thing that I like to do is to write scenes of them together, scenes of the squad um, all chaotic and loud. Those are one of my favorite things to write, especially with the playlist series. Scenes of them just being loud and just bickering and having fun and being friends, and also scenes of them playing music. So those are my favorite things to do. So as I mentioned earlier, it's also kind of writing practice because you kind of learn how to differentiate the voices of these characters and how they speak and the words they use and how they speak to one character in as compared to another character. So those kinds of scenes, I would recommend writing that. And yeah, last I guess is to expand the universe. If you can find somebody, some writer, some other authors who have the same like an adjacent universe as yours, is what we did. It wasn't planned, as Sarah's mentioned. We did not plan to write these universes that can be joined together or have the intersections that we were able to cultivate, but it happened. We identified that somehow. I guess we're not friends, but we were able to create at least a couple of anthologies already, and the characters acknowledge each other's presence in the books that we've written moving forward, and that's super fun. And it helps if you're writing a series and at some point you kind of get burned out or bogged down because there are other authors who are talking about your characters. They appear in their books, and you kind of get pulled out of your rut a little bit. That I saw this interacting with Steven in Tara's book, and it reminds me that it's fun to write this character, or this character that hasn't had this happy ending yet. So it's additional motivation, and it's fun to see readers react to that shared space that we have created. So if that's something that will be available to you once you've written a series, it's highly recommended.
Thank you, Jay. How about you, Cara?
Siyempre tawa ako kasi ang unang banat ni Jay ano, spreadsheet.
Nagulat ka pa ba?
I mean, I,
Seriously.
it was parang I expected it but like natawa pa rin ako kasi of the three of us talagang si Jay ang mahilig sa Excel file ganyan or sa mga spreadsheet. Although I also use that. I'm going to say yes to the ano to you collecting certain details about your universe. Parang series Bible kind of. Hindi ko pa siya ginagawa but I have been thinking of it kasi nga I've been trying to write books for the past 2 years. Pero ano, parang lagi akong nadidistract with something. But anyway, putting together like a series Bible and then just keeping all the details there for you to be able to go back to when you start writing na the other books in the series will be really helpful kasi like kahit yung mga small details like for example anong klaseng gitara ba yung tinutugtog ni Iwan or parang ano yung favorite gawin ni Steven during downtime yung mga ganon kasi when it appears on one book, it will always be nice to parang to do a parang call back to it in another book. Parang ganon. Yung for the para sa readers who have been parang following your work for them to see something na ay nakita ko na parang it also happened in another book. Parang it's a nice parang reminder na yes I am here in this universe and this is canon. Parang ganon. So yun, series Bible. And then, second would be, um, for me watch things with people interacting na parang, for example, since I've been working with a fictional band, I watch yung mga parang rehearsal videos ng banda na yung mga Korean bands that I follow. I watch their mga behind the scenes rehearsal, yung mga rehearsal nila, yung mga interaction nila together, just to have a feel of how these people um, interact with each other. Kasi it will also inform your writing. Kunwari, you're going to be writing about brothers. So, ewan ko, if you have like cousins who are brothers, watch them. Like, parang or observe them while they interact with each other. Or if you find a piece of media that has that kind of dynamic, you observe niyo kung paano sila nag interact and then how they treat each other, ano yung personality ng bawat isa, and then how they play off of that energy. Because yun nga, it will inform the way you write these characters. Um, at the same time, yung sinabi ni Jay na you have to nail down the personality. That's I think for me that's very important. Kahit alam mo yon, yung kahit bigyan mo lang siya ng isang parang distinct trait. Like for example, sabihin mo na tsundere siya, ganyan. So, pag sinabi mong tsundere tong character na to, hindi mo naman hindi mo kailangan ibigay lahat ng traits na or parang the way he reacts to all of these things. Alam mo agad na pag may present sa kanya na something, stimulus or whatever, alam mo agad paano siya magre-react kasi ganito yung base niya, base personality. And it's also nice when you parang give them that base personality and then they start acting differently from that because that's a shift eh. Parang alam mo agad like for example when you're playing with like a group dynamic tapos alam mo na si Iwan brooding siya lagi tapos makita mo na biglang ngumingiti na siya habang nagte-text. So, alam mo 'yun, alam mo agad yung dalawang members ng ano niya ng banda niya. Iba na yung parang perception nila of him during that scene. Tapos depende kung ano yung personality din ng band members niya, gano'n naman sila magre-react to his different, yung parang pagka-out of character nung ano, nung person, nung character. So yun, parang maganda lang talaga na you give them like a very distinct thing that they do or parang outward appearance or outward parang what the people see versus yung parang ano yung yung internal ano nila, yung internal chika nila sa buhay. Yun. So, ano pa ba? Parang feeling ko that's that's all that I can that I can say about, parang trying to write a series kasi base parang yun yung base na parang basis ng lahat nung kasi if you write a series na character based, talagang kailangan ang solid nung character mo na alam mo agad yung rules niya. The character's rules negotiables and non-negotiables, ganyan. So parang pag dinala mo siya to another book, consistent yung character niya kahit na hindi na siya yung bida, ganyan, kahit na iba na yung kasama niyang tao. So yun. Pero yun, sa akin very helpful pa rin talaga yung to observe people who are in that environment. Kasi talagang it lalo na pag hindi mo siya immediate na na-experience. For example, banda. Hello. I like bands but I don't hang out with them. So to see people interacting in that environment, iba yung napipick up mong energy and vibe. So, yun, if you want to write something like that, find something that you can watch and observe. So, para magkaroon ka ng feel for it.
Thank you, Tara. So I was thinking lang, kasi the way that we concluded yung writing a location-based romance series was, um, we decided that it was like an easy way to start a series without really starting a series, kasi you can just add people to a place and have not parang think about it really. But based on yung kinukwento nyo, yung takeaway kasi from that discussion was, it only really works then if the location that you created was diverse enough and interesting enough to have things happen there and people come back there that you would want to follow. But I think parang based on what you're talking about, it's a similar vibe or element na you actually need to create a group of people that is diverse enough, interesting enough, na you end up parang just hopping from one character to another without feeling like you're repeating yourself, na kasi there's a lot to explore. So it's almost like parang the building and the developing is similar, na you need all of that, but it's people rather than a place. So so that's it for our main outline and program. So we'll go to the Q&A next. Ako yung unang ako muna yung magtatanong. So I think the thing kasi that Tara brought up na parang now that a tip was to actually think about what they do, build strong character profiles. And you mentioned that there's something about one character now that you kind of want to change and write around as you're writing a new book. Meron bang in a published book for both of you na binago nyo na? There was a thing, there was a thing that was there, and then you're like, nope, I don't want that there anymore. Let's move on. Meron bang ganon?
Parang wala ako. Parang
Same.
yeah.
Parang I had something with Pio na I didn't want to do in his book, pero parang I wrote around it na lang.
Oo.
So, pero in terms of parang ayoko na, tas kunwari hindi na lang siya nangyari. Wala pa naman.
Wala. Nahirapan ako nun kay Nino because his, like, the throwaway thing for him in Songs of Our Breakup was that he kind of cheated on his ex, diba, long distance relationship. How will I make him plausible love interest or MC if he had that history? So that was, I wanted to erase that. Paano ko ito gagawin? And I initially wanted his book to be with that ex, that they kind of fix it somehow, and it wasn't working. It really wasn't working, but he really had to grow out of that mistake and learn from that and suffer a bit for a couple of years before he gets a chance with a new person. So that's one thing that I wish I didn't make him do. Kawawa naman.
So for you, Tara, walang
Wala wala pa akong parang yung tawag ni Tanya, retcon. Wala pa akong
oo.
nire-retcon na anything. Para kaya nga ako nahihirapan ngayon kay Gani kasi parang may gusto akong i-retcon. Pero sige na nga, I'll write around it na lang.
Push.
We can
Paninindigan
make
na
this
lang.
happen. Oo, we can make this happen. Ganyan. Parang the same thing with when I was writing Play It By Ear, I already knew I was going to write Steven's book after. Tapos sabi ko, ba't ko to ginawa kay Steven? I mean, if you've read the book, if you read Play It By Ear, there's something happens at the beginning of the book and
Right?
then
Oo nga.
there's a complication. Tapos parang sabi ko, di okay lang. Kaya yan. Parang
Kaya yan.
it's a challenge for Steven's book. Parang yun yung parang conflict niya dun sa libro niya. So, okay na rin.
So, if anyone's watching or listening to this and is worried about, yun nga, parang committing something to a character earlier on, I think yung attitude and what Tara and Jay have said is the right parang attitude to go about it na parang, yeah, fight. Because I
fight
think,
lang.
kasi I think what will happen if you're worried too much about, dapat I'm writing the first book, it could be a series, there are 20 characters here, all of them have to be perfectly MC material right off the bat. It will really mess with your head, and they're just side characters at this point. So I think it's okay to make them flawed in various ways. Okay lang. And then, yun, so take on the challenge na lang to fix it. So, if you want to, pwede din naman. Kung hindi naman kayo completist, okay din lang na hindi matapos yung group, di ba?
Yeah.
Wala
I-republish
lang.
i-republish mo yung first few books
Oo,
sa Amazon
pwede
without
naman may
telling
new
anybody.
edition.
Yeah, without telling anybody, you changed it.
May new edition, then fix the things.
Parang hindi mo sinabi sa mga tao na may bago dito. Parang malalaman na lang nila kasi parang, I think I saw something here. Bakit did it happen?
Oo, okay lang naman. Like it's not just yung, so Tanya in the comments said, retcon. So actually, there are instances where it's okay, I think, to change something or fix something because if it, and then you just, explain yourself.
Explain yourself.
Magpaliwanag ka na
yun.
lang. Oo. Magpaliwanag ka na lang. And, diba, if it helps future books and kasi ako I've done the thing where I went back to a previous edition and then fixed it because it was inconsequential to the story and parang it was harder kasi to it was harder to sell that book currently in the way that it was kasi nga there are things that
Grabe siya do. Presinto na agad.
there are things that diba, we learn over the years that there's just better ways to do things now, and then yun nga, enough time has passed, you can actually change it, and then may explanation na lang kung bakit pinalitan, so okay lang naman yun. But if it's just a little thing that's part of the character, pwede namang fight, just make it part of the challenge.
Part of character development din, I guess.
Oo. Mas exciting yun.
That was the experience. It might take time because it's not the linear way, maybe, that of writing it as compared that if you're an outliner, if you prefer having things written to the last detail all the time and that makes more sense to you, it would be harder if suddenly you have to do a swerve or like a jump or some other retcon way of fixing it. But it can be done, and as you mentioned nga, it's harder if you go in a series with the idea that you have to have everything laid out before you start it, because the first book will never be finished, maybe, if that's how you think about it.
And if the worry is kasi they have to be all perfect because I want
Mm.
readers to love them all equally. Mahirap din naman yun. You can't
Oo.
expect readers to love every single
Mm.
character, even in a series. Kasi iba-iba yung trip ng mga tao.
Iba-iba yung
Tsaka
bias nila. May mga
Oo.
bias sila.
yes.
The bias chooses them sometimes. And then it's fun to see
Yeah.
that also who responds to who to which character.
Yeah.
And sometimes in my experience yung pag writing around whatever that you don't like anymore, it provides an interesting thing for
Yeah.
your for the actual book that you're writing. Kasi like I said kanina, there's something about Pio that I didn't want to bring into the next book, and that was yung love team niya. Kasi
Mm.
'di ba, that was like one of his things sa Waiting in the Wings na he didn't want people to see that he's dating somebody else because he's in a love team. And in the Philippines, kapag part ka ng love team, you have to be exclusive.
Mhm.
You have to be exclusive or else you're not going to sell the fantasy. So sabi ko, if I'm going to give him like if I'm going to give Pio an HEA, it's either yung ka-love team niya or somebody else. And I didn't want yung ka-love team kasi basta parang ang
Mm.
dali eh. Parang
Mm.
it
Mm.
was an
Parang,
easy parang ang dali nun, 'di ba? Na parang nagkainlaban kayo sa
Ah.
set. Parang who wouldn't fall in love with Pio on set? Parang gano'n. So parang so parang when I started writing his book, sabi ko ayoko nung love team niya. I want to take it out. Na parang hindi na siya
Mhm.
dapat factor in this relationship. Dapat iba na yung thing. So I wrote around it, and then it provided me with something else during in the middle of the book na parang okay, it's nice. Or parang gano'n, parang walang challenge kay hindi naman. Someday I'm
Sabi
going
mo
to write about
madali.
co-stars. Ganun.
Oo.
O hindi.
That's another book.
That's another book, oo.
Yeah. Pio
Pero yun nga,
Stan.
parang lang, I think, don't be scared of um, picking on that challenge na parang if you want something changed or if you want something na parang if you want to write around something that you don't want anymore, parang don't be scared kasi it might give you another thing to work with na interesting ganyan, and makakadagdag pa siya dun sa ng story mo, sa flow niya.
And I also think na yung these two authors in particular, yun yeah, taking off from what Tara said, parang they took on like a challenge of um like the one who wasn't chosen essentially gets their own book, and then
Oo nga.
so so you have
Punta
to
may
you have the challenge of parang taking into a new book someone you previously established, and then introducing somebody uh who is supposed to be a better match for them, 'di ba? But that and if people kasi like them in a previous book, they thought that that person was the
Mm.
match for them, 'di ba? Do you have any specific parang tips for the new writing the new person? Yung
Parang it has to be that the new person has to be different from the first almost match somehow. Parang the challenge for me is to create somebody or to introduce somebody who is not just a version of the one that got away. So I kind of remembered, ano yun, one more chance yun, di ba? When I forgot the name of the one of Maha's character, but the friend's
Si
comments
Maha
was like,
Salvador.
it looks just like Basha. So kind of that something that I want to avoid. Na it has to be a person that's fundamentally, or at least in important ways different from the first person that the new MC now did get before, and also has to be able to uh, be compatible with that character in ways that the other person, the first MC wasn't, and that they now make more sense together. So something like that. Did that make sense? Yeah.
How about you, Tara?
Ako actually, when I was writing Pio's book, I was scared na hindi tanggapin ng reader si Audrey. Kasi sabi ko parang when I wrote Waiting in the Wings and then people started to read it and then talk about it on social media, parang feeling nila parang Erin Pio, may Erin Pio faction. um, Tapos, syempre may Erin Ramon. Tapos, when I was writing Pio's book na parang sabi ko, ano kaya pwede kong gawin with this character for the people to see that they are better together than, alam mo yun, someone else. Tas, hindi ko na siya trinay i-solve. Parang I just, when I was writing Audrey, I just wanted her to be her own person who does her own things. um, I wanted her to be a strong character regardless of the state she was in when Pio first met her, ganyan. I wanted her to be basta parang um, hindi naman unflappable kasi nga meron siyang issue ganyan sa umpisa. But I wanted her to be um, independent of him din. Parang kumbaga pag pinagsama mo sila, hindi sila yung parang hindi magsusurvive yung isa without the other. But at the same time, they can contribute to each other's growth during the duration of the story. So, ganun yung ginawa ko and masaya naman kasi natanggap naman ng mga tao si Audrey. So, na sila, parang Gina, ganyan. Um, Yun, parang lang, siguro, hindi ko rin kasi minatch yung personality. Parang, kasi si POS was an extrovert and then parang hindi ko naman sinabi na introvert. Alam mo yun, parang hindi ko sila ginawang opposite na ganyan. Basta I just wanted, ito na si Audrey, ito siya. Ito yung personality niya, this is how she is at work, this is how she is with her family, ganyan. And then, bigay ko na lang sa'yo si Pio, tingnan natin kung ano mangyari.
Yes.
Give
Thank
the
you.
gift of Pio Alves. Ganun, you know.
O, diba?
Do you
For
accept this
Christmas.
gift?
Do you
Gusto ko
accept
din.
this gift? Gusto ko din.
Parang lang, di parang yung pag naglalaro ka ng parang RPG game, parang gano'n. Yung pag pinag-meet mo yung dalawang character, anong mangyayari between them. Tapos kung pag may kumagat, sige go.
We have a question from the chat. Could we have that question? From Pablo, will there be an Avengers version of Romance Class characters?
Wait, ano ibig sabihin na
What
Avengers?
does this
Ano yun?
mean?
Are we fighting evil?
Are they gonna save the world?
Avengers Assemble, ganon. Ano?
Actually, wala naman akong sagot, pero yung they were talking about expansion, yung the way that Jay's books, Tara's books, and Six's books parang share a universe, and it's already parang something that people do, like especially for example something like Sweet on You by Carla de Guzman. If you read that book, you'll see references to other books, to other like businesses that the characters own, just all these things. So the expansion doesn't have to be it can be in small ways, yung just the setting, just a detail. Yun nga lang, di ba? Suddenly now you have more details to watch out for and take care of. And I think yung, di ba, I had one comment about particular reference, yung one character in a book was reading Beginner's Guide.
Yeah.
Oo.
Yes. I remember that.
Oh, yes.
Oo.
I remember that editorial comment. Pero oo nga, no? Ang gulo ko doon.
So yun lang. I think yun lang yung parang, because we are already working on this shared universe thing where it is a Manila where these people exist at the same time. Pero it's a different thing to say that it's a book. So there's a term for it. I forgot what it is. There's a literature term for it, but I forgot what it is. But yun. So if there's something that we're trying to avoid is to say beginner's guide. Someone
Yeah,
is
yeah,
reading
yeah.
Beginner's Guide by Success, or someone's reading Scandalized by Tara Frejas. Pero, oh, wait, we're not in the book in that way. Kasi it's the characters that exist. Yun na, just an editorial note. If you are thinking of parang expanding your romance class book in this way. Pio actually.
Grabe, merch upgrade
Ano
na
to,
yan.
Nendoroid,
Oo.
ganon. Nendoroid ba to? Let it
Kailangan
go.
yung
O
cute na
Funko Pop,
ano.
ganon.
Funko Pop!
Parang,
So cute.
ano, Pop Junk Love plushie. Ganyan.
Oh my God.
Oh no. Oh no.
Don't give me ideas.
No.
Char.
I have given you the idea.
Oh no.
Gusto ko lang pala i-add dun sa Avengers question ni Prof. Tawag
Naka-Henley.
dito.
Anyway,
Different colors Henley. Many boys, different colors Henley. That's the only thing they will wear. Henley or no Henley. That's the only option.
okay, sorry, please carry on.
It's okay. Tawag dito. Yung Avengers romance class universe kasi no, yun nga, like Mina said, it's more than yung characters lang na nag-a-appear. Kasi sometimes like when I was reading an advanced copy of something, nakita ko si Pio doon, nabanggit siya kasi meron siyang TV series na hindi ko na, alam mo yun, parang okay, but I accept it because it's, parang alam mo yun, parang that's true to his character, and then may mga ibang books din that borrow certain places and certain locations from other books. For example, I borrowed Doc Max's for Dato's book, ganyan. And it's a nice way to parang put together everything. Like parang kahit nasabihin mo hindi naman talaga connected lahat ng books natin, but you see a person here that appeared in another book, or a place here that appeared in another book. It makes you think that everyone is connected kahit na hindi. May 6 degrees of separation din sila. parang okay, si Pio, kapatid niya si Datu. Tapos, friend ni Datu, si Max Angeles sa If the Dress Fits, ganyan. So, that way that we created these characters and these books, parang hindi naman talaga siya napag-uusapan, pero parang ganun yung lumalabas na, uy, mag-guest si ano sa libro mo uy, mag-guest si ganito sa libro ko, ganun. So, it's a small detail na romance class readers will find parang rewarding if they actually have been reading other books. Parang, ay, oh my God, si ano nandito. Oy, oh my God, nakikinig si ano ng Trainman. Or, alam mo yun. So, yung Avengers, parang nangyari na siya. Hindi lang siya yung parang inassemble mo sila sa isang lugar.
Hindi lang siya one big finale movie.
Oo, hindi parang nangyari na siya, pero different movies pa din. Walang di ba? Parang different movies pa rin. Pero andun siya, nag-cameo siya doon. Si ano, nag-cameo dito, ganun. So,
I guess more than the assemble, it's the different, like in the Avengers MCU, yung different movies, tapos nandun si Black Widow in that Captain America movie.
May konting
tapos,
cameo, ganyan.
correct na lang.
Okay, parang si Steven, biglang nasa libro ni Jay. It's like,
so you just have to ask, Tara, by this time, is it possible for Steven to be in the Philippines? Because I want him in this scene. And then,
parang bulatan na lang, gano'n.
Oo, matapang pa kami because we do lines. We write dialogues of these characters that I did not write Steven. I did not create Steven, but I would write a scene with Steven in it. Para paki-check, will he actually say this? And say this way, and will he react to this character this way, ganyan. So we do that kind of betaing and checking each other. But that's as much as we are able to collaborate.
That then, kasi pa yan, when you wrote Son's book, this is another thing na parang writing around things. Kasi parang pinapunta niya si Steven sa Maynila para mag-play with a band na hindi alam ng manager niya. so parang ako, Sige, I'm
It's
gonna deal with
okay.
this when I'm gonna deal with this kind of
Mm.
situation pag sinusulat ko na yung libro ni Steven. So,
Oh,
parang it's a detail that I have at the back of my
yeah.
mind na parang it happened in canon.
Mm.
Kailangan something parang sa susunod na libro sa libro ni Steven, I have to do a shout out to that moment na parang siguro pinapagalitan siya ni Fee na parang hindi ka na pwedeng lumabas ng
Oo nga,
dahil
Oh,
that's
kukunin ko
cute.
yung passport mo. Yung mga ganun.
Oo.
we were in Japan. How did you make it to Manila to a party?
You said you were going to Osaka. Ganyan.
Suddenly you are trending. What happened?
Basta
Oh, but that
ganyan.
is
So,
cute. Oo nga.
masaya siya. Masaya siyang paglaruan. Ganyan.
Oo. And then biglang meron kang prompt rather than problema
Mm.
siya, prompt
Yes.
siya.
Yes.
Prompt rather than a problem.
Mhm.
Yes. We
Oh,
create prompts.
optimist tayo.
That's how books get done, I guess. By being
Actually,
optimist.
tsaka hala ko sabi mo, that's how books get done, yung prompt.
Well,
Minsan
prompt
kasi
and problem, yes.
but there's some parang trivial thing that we say, tapos biglang, ayan na, libro,
Oo.
story na
Oo.
siya, ganyan.
Libro na
Suddenly
siya.
may summer crush to, ganyan. Ganyan.
Oy!
Doon lang naman nagsimula yun, di ba? How about this happens?
True.
Thank you for that question,
Thanks,
Prof.
Paolo.
Paolo.
Thank you,
So
Prof.
Malay
please
mo,
don't...
magkaroon ng Avengers version. Tignan natin.
Ayan, may prompt na kasi.
Dami, no?
Sino magsusulat
Anthology.
nun?
Anthology ulit.
Anthology ulit.
In,
So please
in the
don't
tradition
forget.
of...
Don't forget to
Sorry.
like the stream if you're watching, and please subscribe also. So we are hoping to get more subscribers. So if you notice, we have been talking on our social media about getting people to subscribe to our YouTube, and we're moving that subscriber count. So thank you everyone. But we're gonna do that a little more because we have plans. So, but first, before I tease more on on what the plans are, thank you so much, Tara and Jay, for sharing how you write a series. And I think it's not as planless as you claim it to
Ay, di ba?
to be. I think what you're actually doing is yun, yeah, I think that the thing, because even yun, yeah, me and Ansela last time we thought walang plan, but actually you're taking the time to build something that's diverse enough and has interesting enough parang set pieces and characters that you can go back to it again and again and sort of build a universe. And then yun, yeah, if you're stuck, it can turn it into a prompt or expand it into somewhat a friendly author's book and sort of like help your series along. And I hope that it helps anybody listening thinking of planning a series. So actually yun, hindi siya masyadong planning. It's a lot of, going with feelings and inspiration. But hopefully, yun nga, you've built something that there's enough to go on so you can keep getting inspired. And so that's it for season 4 of the
Yay!
Romance Class
Yay!
podcast.
Oh my
Konti
God.
lang yung break natin, just a little bit of a break just to start planning the next season and also new projects. So we have a new project. I'm not gonna reveal too much about it, but it's consistent naman with discussions we've been having on this podcast, which is we want to improve yung options natin for audio editions of our books. And we decided that we already have a platform, which is our YouTube channel, which is free. And and it's free. It's you don't have to pay anything additional to do it. But how do we get audio editions of our books into this YouTube channel? So one experiment that we're gonna do, because we're always experimenting, is we're going to have a narrator uh, read an entire book on our YouTube channel on a live stream, 1 hour every week. And we will, so this person we'll read we'll do a weekly live stream on Romance Class YouTube, read several chapters from the book, come back again the following week, read several chapters, and keep doing that until the entire book is on the YouTube channel. And uh, and yun, so we're gonna ask for your help because this is someone's time and effort. So we plan, of course, to compensate this person and everyone working on that stream. And it's also uh, we're still working on the details, but I can say that we're going to start with one of Tara's books. So it's going to be one of Tara's books, and we're gonna post something soon. But the other reason why we want people to like our streams and subscribe is because once we hit a certain number of subscribers, we can earn from those videos. So so ang ano kasi, ang 'di ba? So it's like it is it's really an intensive thing that we're asking somebody to do, to read like a 40,000 word book on a live stream. So we want to be able to compensate them for their time, and we get the bonus of having an entire book read to us by someone we like. So so yun. So and if we're able to do this, we will just move on to the next book, and then another book, and then another book. So help us out with this experiment. We'll have the details up soon. Hulaan nyo kung anong libro ni Tara yung yung
May sumisigaw na sa chat eh. Tama
ano
kaya
kaya?
siya?
Ano kaya yung unang libro na
Tama kaya yun?
Oo,
Hindi kayo sa likod.
we're thinking about it.
Choose your
You know.
boy.
Yeah.
Sister.
So yeah. So that's the next thing we're planning. We're taking a break, and then we're so definitely if you have other suggestions for topics for season 5 of the podcast, please send us a message, leave a voice message on our anchor, or just tweet us if you have a suggestion for a topic. We are willing to do that. Thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. Please like the stream. Please ask your friends to subscribe to our channel. And thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thanks,
Happy
Jay.
weekend. Bye.